Good evening. It was a long time coming, but finally, David Cameron said yesterday that the many text messages to Rishi Sunak, the beer with Matt Hancock, all on behalf of the now collapsed Greensill capital, shouldn't have happened. In his written statement, he said, there are important lessons to be learned. But surely a man smart enough to have been the Prime Minister might have worked that one out before he went on the charm offensive, especially since he decried the tactics of the trade. The government's independent investigation, led by legal expert Nigel Boardman, will look at Greensill in particular and how contacts were secured and how business representatives engaged with government. But today, another former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, weighed in, questioning whether former ministers and prime ministers should be engaged in lobbying for commercial companies at all when they're lobbying successors they know well. Here is our political editor, Nick Watt. In tomorrow's Telegraph, John Major is also calling for an overhaul of ethics rules. So that's two former Prime Ministers. The streets of Belfast and towns in Northern Ireland were quieter this weekend, partly in response to the death of Prince Philip. But there is nothing to suggest that the underlying tension has abated. Newsnight understands that intergovernmental talks between London and Dublin will take place in the coming days between the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Brandon Lewis, and the Irish Foreign Minister, Simon Coveney, as co-guarantors of the Good Friday Agreement. The focus of the people of Northern Ireland has been on the workings of the Northern Ireland Protocol and how it relates to the Belfast Agreement against the backdrop of a new census, the once-in-a-decade survey of the population, which has been completed by more than 90% of the residents, and the demographics of Northern Ireland are key to its future. Our policy editor, Lewis Goodall, reports from Belfast.
So, Lewis, here we are.
David Bruce, first of all, you heard the view there that the violence has possibly abated out of respect for Prince Philip and is obviously for this period of mourning. But there's nothing to suggest that anything's been resolved and it's possible and even likely that the violence will resume. Is that your assessment? Has emerged of a police officer in Minneapolis fatally shooting 20-year-old black man Daunte Wright. The killing has led to protests and unrest on the streets of Minneapolis, and a curfew is now in place in the city. Today, the police chief, Tim Gannon, told media the shooting was accidental and the officer had meant to use their taser and instead shot him with a single bullet. This shooting has happened at a time when tensions are high in Minneapolis as the trial of former officer Derek Chauvin, accused of killing George Floyd, takes place. Well, joining me now is LaTosha Brown. We had Daunte Wright being shot 10 miles from where the case of George Floyd was being taken by, and Derek Chauvin was on trial. I want to know, but not everybody has seen the footage, but what did you make of the footage where the officer suggested that she had mixed up a taser for a gun?
You know, I think what's interesting...
Well, that's just about all from us tonight. Tomorrow night, we'll have our interview with the artist Tracy Emin. But we leave you tonight with memories of Baroness Shirley Williams, who's died at the age of 90. She had a political career which spanned more than 50 years, and she was one of the first women to hold a cabinet position. Most memorably, in 1981, she changed the course of British politics when she left the Labour Party and, with three other famous faces, founded the SDP and earned the moniker of one of the Gang of Four. Good night.
Very early on,